So I just want to go ahead and get this out the way. I don't want this to be any kind of clickbaity video like, you know, some people that we know. This isn't some kind of video where I'm just going to be talking about other things and then like at the very end it's like, oh yeah, by the way, this is what I said I was going to talk about. No. So most of you guys are here to see what I was talking about a couple of days ago about how the Jacksons owe money and how it was working with them and also like what they do with their kids and stuff like that. So I will be covering most of that in this video, and just as a heads up, this is a movie and anime review channel. So this is going to be the only video that I will be talking about this kind of stuff on this channel. So as you guys know, I was the Jacksons of Atlanta's videographer, and I was a videographer for quite some time. It was probably the worst job I've ever had in my 9 years of professional video work. And I will never go back to doing any kind of YouTuber content or like any things for other families because of how they treated me and the other employees. Like, well, I say other employees, it was just me and the nanny. That's it. There are no other employees in the company. It's just, Justin was one of the owners, Mahogany was the other owner, I was the videographer, and then you have Holly, who was the nanny. Notice I said was the nanny because Holly quit as well because they also owe her money. So they reached out to me and they ended up giving me an interview, and I went to go to the interview. And at first I started already having some like red flags because when I got the notice that they wanted to have an interview with me, I went looking online, I did some digging on their website and stuff, and I saw that they had a completely different address set up to have us go to. But in the email that I got from them, they wanted me to go to a house, and I was like, okay, that's odd, but whatever. The place that was online is like a really nice building, and it's not where their business is at. They work out of their house, as you guys can tell. They've never been anywhere else unless like driving around in Atlanta and stuff like that. So all of us was working from out inside of their house. The interview was kind of quick. I ended up going there right after my job, and I think they kind of got me at a really bad spot because I was already tired of the job that I was doing. It was still video work, but it was very repetitive, and I really wanted something brand new, and this lined up a bit more of the narrative style things that I wanted to do. And so the interview went by, like I said, went by very quickly, and then they seemed to like me a lot, and they told me that, hey, we're gonna like call you back later on today to let you know if you got the job or not. So I went home, I waited all day, I never got a call back, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, guess I'm just going back to work. And so as I'm at work, I ended up getting a call from them asking me if I could come in to like finalize everything that they want to hire me. And at that moment, like I started thinking about it because in the interview, they were talking about like they were pastors and he's trying to open up a church and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, you know, that's cool. You know, I'm trying to get closer to God and things like that. And so I did some digging on them, and I was like, there's no way this guy's a pastor. Like, there's absolutely no way. But, you know, I put it to the side because, you know, sometimes people can change. So I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe he's serious about wanting to be a pastor, and like he is a pastor and everything. As you guys can tell, based off of their current content and things like that, Justin and Mahogany are not pastors. And I don't understand why they continue to lie about it and how their fans actually believe that they're pastors. They're not. They aren't religious, even in the slightest. They use God to get a bunch of followers and things like that. And you know, Christians are gullible. I'm just going to upright and say it. Christians are very gullible. You mention the Bible once and people are like, oh yeah, these are like very godly people. And you got them. So they took that and they ran with it. But anyways, I ended up getting the job and I started working for them for a while. The first week was pretty chill. He actually paid for my gas to go to other places. But then past this first week is when things started to really shift with me. And I caught on very early that these guys weren't very truthful with a lot of things. And I also realized that they didn't have the money that they were saying that they did on their YouTube and stuff like that. So I didn't really say anything because it wasn't really any of my business. As long as I got paid, I didn't really care. They can say whatever the heck they wanted to online. It's whatever. Like I said, it's not my business. After that first week, things started to get very complicated. And what I mean by that is, when that started, they wanted me to work every single day. And I mean Monday through Sunday, nonstop. At first, it wasn't that big of an issue for me because, you know, I play video games, I'm young, and, you know, I watch anime and things like that. So I'm always up anyways. So I've always been like that since college. in high school. My friends can tell you about that. But whenever they wanted me, but you know, working is different, you know? So I'm editing, I'm shooting, I'm doing all of this late, like really late. There were some times where I didn't get home until like 12 o'clock. And I did stay an hour away from them, so realistically we would finish at like 10 to 11 o'clock, and then I'd end up having to drive an hour home, stuff like that. So I always got home super late. I would go to sleep, and then I'll wake up, do the same thing the next day. Sometimes they like do this thing where they would text me like last minute, be like, oh, hey, you know, you have a call time of 6 a.m., you have a call time of 7 a.m., and it's like, okay, like I'm not scheduled to come in until 8 o'clock. Why are you trying to get me in at 6 or 7, especially when we just filmed all the way until like 11 p.m. Why am I coming in super early? But anyways, no, these guys don't really care about anything like that. They don't respect other people as long as you're just doing things for them. They really do not care about you, and that's the honest truth. I'm sure you guys can tell that in most of their videos and things. So yeah, like I was saying, I will work every single day, and I worked every day for a good month straight. I kid you not. My friends were asking about me. I had family members checking in on me to see like, hey, like where have you been? Why have you been like busy? They're not like overworking you, are you? And you know, when you're doing things like this, you don't want to tell your family like, oh yeah, you know, I'm so tired. They're working me every single day. No, I'm not a person who likes to include my family in a lot of things. So I just kind of told them, yeah, everything's fine. You know, I'm working, I'm doing something that I like. I'm showing them the videos and stuff, and everything was going just fine. But then it started to really get to me, and I started to get really tired, and I don't get tired. So it started to surprise me that I was getting really tired. I don't think it was from like working. I think it was more of like a stress thing, because when I say they were working me every single day nonstop, that's how it was. And there were even times where they would have me come into work and there was nothing to do, but they just wanted me there for some strange reason, and they would find things for me to do, and that really got annoying. But I didn't, again, another things that I just didn't argue about. I was just like, whatever, these guys are paying. And this was a full contract. This wasn't a, like, you come in, you film this, you leave, stuff like that. No, this was a full 40-hour week, supposed to be a 40-hour week thingy. But like I said, I was working every single day of the week. So I went way over, and there was no overtime. So I was just working extra for free. The other annoying thing about that is they wouldn't tell me when I would be filming super late, because I don't know why they never told me that. That really got annoying. And for someone like me, I'm a very like scheduled and organized person. So I need to know what time I'm starting, what time we're filming this, and things like that. So at the time, I put together this thing on Monday.com, which is where I was able to schedule out the shoots that we were having on my own, because they weren't doing it. So I needed something to visually look at to know when something's due in videos. And it let me know when we shot a video, when it's supposed to be uploaded, and also like the process that I was in, like did I edit it, things like that, did I upload it, all that. I was able to check everything on there. And Justin and Mahogany aren't really the most organized people. Like I say not the most organized, they're not organized at all. So they would have things just thrown all over the place. And when it came to scheduling, they would make me work off of this Google Doc that just said like, oh, like we're shooting this video on this day, and there was like no times and stuff. They would change the times where they would want an edit due at like 8 p.m. And that bothered me too, because like, okay, if I'm supposed to be getting off at like 5 o'clock and the edit is due at 8 p.m., that means that one, I have to either finish the edit in that moment while we're filming all day, by the way, because we're filming every single day. I would either have to finish working there at their house, or I'd have to go home and continue working. And that was an issue, because when I go home, I want to be home relaxing. I don't want to bring work with me, especially if it's editing, because that becomes a lot. I'm not sure how many of you guys edit, but editing is tough. And I love editing, but if you're doing it every single day, it becomes a lot. So that became a big issue with me. And they would do this thing where they would try to change when something was due. But again, I had my own separate schedule, so I already knew when something was due. So once they changed something, I was like, why are they trying to change the dates or the time of when something's due? So that started to really bother me. So I started taking pictures of when they would upload the Google Docs. just to, you know, cover myself just in case they tried to say anything, which they did eventually, but I had myself covered, and they were like looking like confused because they're like, oh, but like on our end, I'm like, that's cool that on your end that you changed to Google Docs, it says this, but I literally have a picture of when it's supposed to be due. I have my Monday account where it has everything, so, you know, there's no getting around that. So they just like let that slide or whatever, and they completely forgot about it. That was my like red flag number one. Another red flag that I got, and I forgot to mention this, was they have this assistant that works with them. Originally I wasn't gonna say any names, but I feel like it's kind of important and it doesn't really matter now because this person doesn't even exist. But they had this assistant named Kathy Franklin, you know, Kathy with the C and then Franklin. And they put us into this group chat, and they wanted us to talk through there. They didn't want us to send any text individually, which I thought was odd. They didn't want me to call Kathy or anything like that. You know, that's red flag number two. And I'm a curious person. So I'm like, why don't they want me to call this assistant? Which, by the way, is in charge of giving me my paycheck and stuff like that. Well, I say paycheck, but they would just transfer the money into my account. They didn't do a paycheck. They didn't do any kind of form of payment that could be traced back. So I thought that was kind of weird again. So, you know, more and more red flags are stacking on top of each other. And I'm just, at this point, I'm just being careful because I don't want anything to mess up like with me. So I'm just covering myself with a lot of things like that. So the whole thing with Kathy is Kathy was the point of contact when it came to my pay. And she would send me an email to confirm like, hey, you're getting paid this amount on this day. And it's like, okay, cool. I know how much I'm getting paid. So the thing about Kathy is, like I said, you know, Kathy doesn't exist. And I decided to test that theory. I thought it was odd one day when I left from my interview. And I got a text from Kathy that was like, hey, it was so great to meet you and having you come in. It was so good hearing everything. And I thought that was kind of odd because I was like, I didn't see you. I met with Justin and Mahogany, but I never saw Kathy. So I thought that was kind of weird. I didn't say anything about that. I just took a screenshot because you never know. Then there was this other time where I thought it was really odd that Kathy was sending me these messages trying to confirm things that I talked with Mahogany about. And I'm like, okay, maybe Mahogany talked to Kathy and they're like trying to, you know, understand some things. But no, that wasn't the case. So I thought that was weird. That was another flag. The other thing that I was like, okay, I need to confirm. Like, I'm already thinking Kathy is not a real person. I need to confirm if Kathy is a real person. So we were supposed to be filming Justin's headshots and we didn't leave the house, and I was like, okay, we're like a good 30 minutes behind. What's going on? So I decided to, you know, text a group chat and I was like, hey, like, aren't we supposed to be leaving right now? Or like, what time are we supposed to be leaving? Kathy responded in a group chat and she was like, yes, we are supposed to be leaving. Now, I thought that that was weird as well because I was like, okay, I'm asking Justin and Mahogany, what do you mean, yes, we are supposed to be leaving? And as I'm like getting this text from her, I see Mahogany walking through the hallway. Mahogany's holding this other phone and she's typing. And immediately, whenever she finished typing, I get a text from Kathy trying to correct her mistake. And she was like, let me check to see when you guys are supposed to be leaving. And I was like, that's odd. Kathy is Mahogany and Justin. So the person who's in charge of my paycheck isn't real. They were pretending to be some other kind of employee. And from my understanding and from, you know, the judge's understanding, which I will get into later on, that's illegal. So that was something that I didn't really like. So at that point, I started looking at other jobs whenever I would go home and I have my like 3 hours of sleep. And I think they started to realize that I was looking for other jobs. So they started to like add on more things to my duties, which didn't bother me. I didn't really care. But I never let them know that I knew that Kathy wasn't a real person. There was one other thing that I needed to confirm because I was like, okay, if anything were to go down, I need to have like hardcore proof that Kathy is like supposed to be Justin and Mahogany. There was some other person, you know, Justin does these skits and everything. I sent a text to our group chat, our regular group chat, trying to confirm some other stuff. And while I was in the office, you know, I would edit in their office. They wouldn't let me edit at home. So I would be editing at their office. I realized that their like this phone behind me started to vibrate. And I was like, that's odd. So I get up and I look at the phone and I see a text message. Not my text message, but I see a text message that has sent to one of the people who do Justin skits. And it was like, hey, it's Kathy. I just wanted to let you know that we're so happy to be able to meet with you and stuff like that. Our shooting is next week. And I was like, so Kathy, one, like I said, Kathy doesn't exist. But they're pretending to be Kathy to everybody who's like deals with them, which I don't know why they need to do that. They could just be themselves and be like, hey, you know, we're gonna pay you from our account and stuff like that. They wanted their company to seem way bigger than it actually is when it's just them two. There is no other people involved in their company. Again, it's just Justin and Mahogany. So at that point, when I saw that text message, I took a picture because I was like, yeah, no, like, I don't like this. So I took a picture of it. I never brought it up to them because, again, I wanted them to think I was dumb and just to have them thinking I'm just some regular person who doesn't know what's going on when I knew everything the entire time. So that's the whole Kathy thingy. They, like I said, they were pretending to be another employee, and that's illegal. And I don't know why they did that, but they did. There was just one point when working with them when I was gonna quit like way early on, and it had to do with, you know, my lunchtime. So I'm not sure if you guys remember, there was this video where Justin surprised Mahogany to some go-kart place and they spent time over there. Before that, you know, in that same day, every single day I eat my lunch at 12 o'clock. You know, that's like a normal time for people to go out and eat lunch. They know I eat lunch at 12 o'clock. I do it every single day. Now again, like I said, Justin and Mahogany are terrible at planning. I'm looking at the list of everything. I finished all of my filming. I finished all of my editing. I was practically like good for the day. So I was like, okay, cool. You know, I'm gonna go take my lunch. Justin ends up coming into the office and he's like, hey, Josh, we're going to go film something real quick at the neighbor's house. We wanna, so like get the camera ready, get the gimbal stabilized and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, like what time is this? Wasn't on a schedule. So I was gonna go eat lunch. So just let me know so that way when I come back, I can, you know, get everything ready so we can start shooting. And then Justin was like, oh no, like right now. And I was like, okay, like why wasn't this on the schedule? I'm not prepared at all. And he's like, yeah, you know, it's like supposed to be, like we already knew about it, but you know, we're just not bringing it up to you. And I'm like, that's really last minute. Again, I'm not a last minute person. So, but anyways, I was like, you know what, okay, whatever, but like I'm starving. Like I need to get something. He said, yeah, we'll get you something afterwards. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we go to the neighbor's house, they go inside and they start like talking for a good 30 minutes. And then we start getting the filming and everything. And get this. So Justin knew this ahead of time. Justin and Mahogany knew this ahead of time. What the shoot was, as you know, most of you guys can tell from the video if you watched it, they were eating chicken and waffles that the neighbor ended up cooking directly in front of me. Now, I'm not mad. You know, I ended up bringing this up with them later on, but I was pretty pissed about this because, you know, this is the time I was supposed to be eating lunch. I told Justin that I was hungry and I need to get something to eat. He's like, yeah, you know, we'll do it afterwards. And then, you know, they bring this up to me last minute and it's like, you guys, you know, can't do that. You should like let me know ahead of time. This is poor planning. So, but anyways, you know, they're eating this food in front of me. Everything's smelling good. And I'm like frustrated as I'm filming them eating and smacking and, you know, drinking alcohol in front of me. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, I need this bit to be over because I'm like starving again. And this guy is making more than enough food. He's making a lot of food. And I wasn't, again, like I wasn't mad at the fact that they were eating in front of me, but it was kind of rude that I was supposed to be eating lunch. Justin knew I was supposed to be eating lunch, and instead of them, like, they didn't offer anything. The guy didn't offer me anything. They were able to take like extras home with them, and they didn't offer me anything to eat. So I'm like, what the heck is this? So I'm mad about that. And then we end up going straight to Atlanta. And we go to the go-kart place. after, you know, they've been drinking, and I don't ride with people who drink. So I didn't really appreciate the fact that they ended up having us drive all the way to Atlanta while they're drinking. Mind you, Mahogany can't drive. She's a terrible driver. Justin can't drive. He's also a terrible driver. But we ended up driving, and then, you know, they do the thing where they ended up renting a Turo car. They really like renting things on Turo because their current car isn't the best, as, you know, they don't ever show their car. So they ended up renting a Turo car, and we got in there and we drove the rest of the way to the place. And, you know, they're eating again there, they're drinking more alcohol, and then they're like, okay, let's go drive go-karts after we finish drinking alcohol. And it's like, you guys just, whatever. So we ended up filming that entire day, and then whenever we finished, we ended up having to go to, Justin wanted to get dessert. So instead of going straight home, he decided to go to another place to go out and eat and stuff. I had to film that as well. That took about like another hour. That day, I got back home at like 10 to like 10:30. No, I'm sorry, we got to their house at 10:30, and then I ended up going home. Now, I'm gonna like talk a little bit about the nanny at this point, because at this time, Holly has been trying to get in contact with Justin and Mahogany because, you know, she's watching the kids. She had no idea that they were gonna be out so late, and, you know, Justin and Mahogany would be ignoring them Justin and Mahogany would be ignoring her a lot. And so when we got back, you know, again, it's like super late, I was a little confused on like her reaction, but she ended up leaving without saying a word. Like, she was just like getting out the door. Holly was like, you know, hi, and then she just like left. I'm like, what's up with Holly? So I thought that was kind of odd, until later on I realized that Holly wasn't supposed to be there that late, and they never communicated this with her either. So again, this is like another last minute thing. And they just took advantage of that with, you know, them not responding and stuff like that. So she was pretty pissed about that. And I could tell that, you know, something was wrong with her. But, you know, we didn't really talk that much until recently, but I'll get into that later on. So after everything, the next day comes up, and I decided that I wanted to talk to Justin and Mahogany about, you know, being a bit more mindful about my time and scheduling and things like that. So I ended up telling them, I was like, hey, you know, I just wanted to talk to you guys about yesterday, whenever you guys, I was supposed to be taking my lunch, and you guys were like eating in front of me and stuff like that, and you weren't really, you know, thinking about me and stuff like that. And Justin, I kid you not, you know, these are Justin's words, and this kind of caught me off guard, especially Mahogany's behavior, because I thought that Mahogany was the more like reasonable person out of the two, but this quickly made me realize that that wasn't the case. I told them that I didn't really appreciate that, and I feel like they should be a bit more mindful with me. You know, I'm very mindful with them and their time and stuff like that, so I think it should be, you know, both ways. But when I told Justin that, him and Mahogany got very offended. And his words were, I don't give a damn if I'm on a yacht and I'm eating lobster and shrimp. I tell you when you eat. You know, I'm eating for a bit. I'm not eating to just like be rude and stuff in front of you. And also, it's not my house, which is true. You know, it wasn't their house, but that's not what I was asking them. I was saying just be more mindful. I was supposed to eat lunch around that time. They didn't plan this with me. They didn't let me know at the time. I could have went and got something to eat beforehand. That's what I was trying to get them to understand. But, you know, he said that to me, and that like really struck me right here, and I got pissed. I didn't say anything. I didn't let them know that I was upset about it. So I was just like, you know, whatever, you know, just I get it, you know, I eat whenever you tell me to eat. And I don't think he appreciated me saying that, but I mean, that's literally what he told me. So he didn't really like that, but whatever. So that was one other thing where I was like, okay, like I'm ready to quit. That day I went home, and then I ended up like talking to my mom, my brother, my old boss about it. And they were like, you need to quit. This guy is claiming to be a pastor and things like that. I'm like, yeah. No one really liked me working with them, but at this point, I just wanted to get my paycheck. And once I got the full paycheck, I was like, okay, I'm gonna bounce. Of course, I was gonna give them a 2-week notice because that's what I do. I did that for my last job. Even though Justin and Mahogany didn't really like let me do that with my last job, I gave my last job a 2 weeks notice, and Justin really wanted me to like come in earlier. And at work, he would constantly call me and be like, hey, like, can you find some way to get off early so that way you could come help us like get caught up and film some stuff, and that kind of bothered me. But I ended up leaving a week earlier than I was supposed to, and my job didn't really like that either. But if I didn't, you know, they already went through the hiring process of getting someone to replace me. So at that point, if I didn't tell them like, hey, you know, this other job wants me to leave now, if I didn't do that, they would have just gave it to someone else, and then I would have been out of 2 jobs basically. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, at that moment, I was like, okay, I'm here to work at this point. I'm not trying to be anyone's friends. I'm just here to work, you know, get paid, and then go home and stuff like that. So when it came to filming, that's what I did. I wasn't trying to conversate. I wasn't trying to do anything crazy. I just wanted to do what my job was and call it a day. At this point, you know, they're like nitpicking at a lot of things. They're wanting me to start doing more and more things. They're making me come in earlier, way earlier than I'm supposed to be coming in. And I'm getting frustrated about this. And so this is when things like really start to kick off, and I'm like, okay, like I'm done with these people. So at this point, they're starting to make me do a lot more things with my edits. They're like nitpicking at audio things. They're wanting to make me add extra things to their videos. And it's like, okay, you guys want like a 20-minute video, like max. This is the time that they gave me. And so, you know, I would shoot at least like an hour's worth of stuff, and I'm cutting this down to get it down to a 20-minute video, unless they had like a brand deal. And then at that point, it could be like whatever length, because the brand deal is kind of important. That's how they make their money. So that was one thing that we were doing. But yeah, they were just like nitpicking at stuff like that. And it was like, okay, like clearly I get it. You know, you guys are upset with me, but you can't say anything about my edits because, you know, I've been doing this for years. There's no actual issue. And there'll be like little things like the music is too loud. So I would like, I wouldn't even touch it. I would act like I'm bumping it down, and then I would replay it back for them. Like, yeah, like this is perfect. I'm like, yeah, I literally didn't touch it, but yeah, thanks. So little things like that. So this is when things started to really get really bad for me. I ended up telling Justin and Mahogany they had to take someone to the airport, and I told them a week in advance, and they already knew about it. So I was like, hey, it's like I have to get off at, you know, 5 o'clock, which was my regular scheduled time. And they're like, okay, cool. You know, we're not going to keep you any longer. 5 o'clock is the time that we're going to let you leave. I'm like, cool. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my car because I don't really trust them that they're going to let me leave at 5 o'clock because they never keep the word. They tell you one thing, then they do something completely different. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take my car. So the time comes where I have to take my friend to the airport. And this is also the time where I was supposed to get paid. Now, I never got a text. I never got an email letting me know the time I was supposed to get paid, which normally I would get an email or a text letting me know, hey, you're getting paid this amount. I never got that. So I thought that was kind of odd. So I ended up asking Mahogany. I was like, hey, Mahogany, I never got a text or an email letting me know that how much I was supposed to get getting paid. And she was like, you know, have you messaged Kathy? And I did a little smile. I was like, no, I will though. And she's like, yeah, like, you know, text her and let her know that you never got paid. So I was like, okay. So I ended up sending, you know, Kathy an email, and she never responded to me. I was in the same room with Mahogany, so I wasn't expecting a response. And as the day went by, still nothing was going on. Then we ended up going back to the house so I could go and get my car because they wanted to go shoot at another location. And this is the time when Justin's like filming all of his skits and stuff like that. They had the other videographer who was filming from Justin's phone, and I was getting behind the scenes stuff. So at this point, you know, I wasn't even needed for this day because they didn't have me filming anything, but that's besides the point. So we ended up driving back to the house so I could go and get my car. Immediately as they drop me off and I get to my car, I get an email from Kathy saying, hey, you know, I just wanted to let you know that, you know, we had an issue with the financing team, so we were only able to give you half of your payment. No, like I was not having that. And so I was like, okay, like I'm emailing her back and forth trying to figure out like, what happened? Like what kind of financing issue happened to where you guys only gave me half of my paycheck? And she just kept, you know, talking in circles, talking about, oh, just like something with the financing team. I'm going to try my best. The earliest I could get it to you is like a week from today. And I'm like, that's not going to work. You know, I have bills I have to pay. They're not gonna be like, oh yeah, take the week. No. So I'm emailing her back and forth, and she's like, that's the best that I can do. So at that point, I stopped responding, and I'm like, I'm gonna talk to Justin about this, but I'm probably not gonna do it today because I'm already like, I'm pissed. I'm like annoyed. I only got half of my pay, and it's a lot, So I was like, okay, whatever. I go to the other location in my car. We're filming everything, and then it gets to the time where I'm supposed to leave. And I'm like, hey, I gotta go. It's the time where I gotta take, my friend to the airport. And Justin, I got mad. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, it's 5 o'clock. I have to go, drive so I can go and take them to the airport. And he was like, you can't stay like an extra hour. I really need to get this film, like this scene done. And I was like, Justin, like you knew a week ago I have to go for this. And he's like getting mad at me. We're going back and forth. And he just gets mad to the point where he's just like, go. Like, we'll talk about it later. I'm like, dude, are you serious? Like, you already knew this. And I'm not going to this was planned. Like, this was already planned. I shouldn't even be going back and forth with you about this. So I end up leaving. And then I get a text from Justin like later on. He's like, oh, like I didn't realize that today was the day. Like we talked about it earlier today as well. You knew. So I'm pissed. I get pissed about that. But, so now I'm mad about him trying to lie in front of me, like in front of everyone, about him not knowing that I was supposed to be leaving at a certain time. And I'm mad about me only getting paid half of my paycheck. So it already wasn't a good day. So I ended up going home that day, and I was talking to my old boss about it, and he was like, I don't really trust these people. If I was in your position, I would have just quit because they don't seem very reliable. They don't seem to have anything together. They're taking advantage of you. You should probably quit. So the next day, I get there early, like I'm normally like I do. I always get there 30 minutes early. And so I'm outside their house and I get inside and Justin's like, hey, like we're ready to go. I was like, hey, I want to talk to you about something. And he's like, yeah, sure, what's up? And so at this point I'm explaining to him like, hey, Kathy only paid me half of my paycheck. And Justin's like, what do you mean Kathy only paid you half? And I was like, yeah, Kathy only paid me half of my paycheck. Mind you, again, I already know Kathy is not real. So, and Justin doesn't know that I know Kathy isn't real. So Justin's all confused. He's like, oh, that's odd. Did she say why? And I'm reading him the email of what she said. And he's like, well, if Kathy says that she's going to pay you on this date, then she's going to pay you on that date. So I would take her word for it. And I was like, that doesn't really work for me. You're asking me to work for free at this point until I get paid this. And then the next week, I'm supposed to get another paycheck. I can't trust that you guys are going to, go through with that and actually pay me this amount, because now you're gonna owe me another half, and then you're gonna owe me a full payment the next week. So I couldn't really trust that. And at this point he's getting mad at me, and he's like, at least you got something. And I'm like, are you serious? Are you actually saying this to me right now? So then he decides, he's like, oh, now that I think about it, I do recall having this conversation with Kathy, and I told her that no matter what happens, make sure that you're able to pay him everything in full. She talked to me earlier and said that, she was only going to be able to give half and that they had some financial issue. And I'm like, so now you're just lying to my face. You just said that you didn't know, but now all of a sudden you did talk to her about it. So he's trying to make himself seem like the good guy, that he's putting his foot down, trying to say, oh yeah, I told her to pay you, but he really didn't. So, and again, it's him, he is Kathy. So I'm already seeing through his BS, and I wasn't having it that day. And so we're both going back and forth. And at that point I was like, you know what? I quit. I don't like the way that things are going here. And then, it's one thing to overwork me. Cool. I can get past that. But now you're messing with my paycheck. That's not something that I take lightly. So I told him that I quit. And he's like, you would really do this to me on this important day? We're having all these skits and stuff that I have to get done. I'm just like, dude, you're not paying me. No, I'm not going to, stay any longer if you're not going to pay me. He had the nerve to say that I'll give you $100 for the week. And I'm like, Justin, my card takes premium. That $100 is not going to last me the week. So we get into it about that. And I was like, no, I already made up my mind. And so at this point, Justin is he's pissed. And so he's like, whatever. just make sure that you leave your hard drive here so that way we can get your footage off of it. And that's another thing. They were too cheap. And I brought this up to them multiple times about the hard drive. I was like, hey, you know, like, you guys need to get a hard drive so that way you can transfer your footage over so it's not on my hard drive. I told them multiple times to do this and they refused to buy an extra hard drive. So this part's on them. So it comes time, he's like, you know, we need to get our footage. I'm like, okay, how do you want me to transfer it to you? Because you guys don't have an extra hard drive. And he's just like, I'm gonna let you and Mahogany figure that out. And I was like, okay, but about like my pay, like how are we gonna figure that out? And Justin sits there and he tells me in my face, he's like, yeah, you're probably not gonna get that. And I'm like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, you know, if you quit, you're just not gonna get your paycheck because, you know, you're leaving at a like last minute. And I'm like, one, this is a paycheck that you guys messed up. What do you mean I'm not gonna get that? This is an error on your part. I don't understand if it was something that I did, but no, like you guys messed up on paying me and you only gave me half of what I was supposed to get. What do you mean I'm not gonna get the other half? So we get into it about that and he's like trying to leave because he's like, you know, he has something to do. He's like, I'm gonna have Kathy come in and you're gonna speak with her and Mahogany and you guys are gonna discuss this about how you can go forward with that and get in the footage because we need that footage. So Justin leaves and I'm like, you're gonna have Kathy come in? So I'm all excited, you know. I'm like, dang, like Kathy might be a real person. Or like, who are they gonna have come in to be Kathy to like talk to me about me quitting and then my pay and stuff like that. So Mahogany comes downstairs because Mahogany's not leaving. She's not going to do the skits with us. And she's like all like in her little onesie and all like snugged up. And she's like, oh, like what happened? Justin told me to come down and talk to you. And I was like, oh yeah, I quit. Like, you know, I quit. You guys didn't pay me, so I'm gonna go home. And Mahogany's like, oh, like, what do you mean we didn't pay you? And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, you know, you can cut the crap. You guys didn't pay me. So she's like, oh, so like, what about our footage? And I'm just like smiling because I'm like, okay. So Justin told me that Kathy is gonna come in so I can talk to her about going forward and then getting you guys your footage. And Mahogany was like, Justin said that? And I was like, yeah, Justin said that Kathy's gonna come in so I can talk to her. And Mahogany keeps coming with these excuses of why Kathy can't come in to work so I could talk to her. And I'm like, okay, like again, I already know Kathy's not real. So I know you're trying to come up with all these excuses so that way, you know, you could have me to leave, but I'm not leaving you guys with my hard drive. So she's like, you know, I can't let you leave with the hard drive because that's our footage and we need that. And so, you know, that becomes an issue because I'm like, so I'm not able to leave with my hard drive because you guys decided not to get into the hard drive to already like transfer stuff. I'm not leaving my hard drive with you guys because, you know, I have other clients on there. I have my own personal work. I'm not leaving that here. I already don't trust you guys. So there's no telling what you guys are going to do with my footage. So I don't tell them that. But, so Mahogany's like, you know, we got to figure it out. And, you know, we're like going back and forth trying to figure stuff out. So at this point, I was like, you know what? Yeah, sure. I'll leave the hard drive and then I'll come back and get it whenever you like transfer everything over. But, you know, they have to get the hard drive. I don't leave them with the cable. I just leave my physical hard drive there with them. And it wasn't the hard drive that had the footage on there. I just left them with a random hard drive that I had like in my bag. And so that way, like if they did decide to finally go and get something, they didn't have the footage because I want to get paid before they like took the hard drive from me because you're not gonna play me. I already see where this is going. So I go home and then I'm waiting for like some kind of email or text or something about, you know, the pay or Kathy. And you know, Kathy, like we never get to meet, we never get to talk. I end up messaging Mahogany asking about, hey, have you like been able to schedule anything with Kathy so that way I can schedule a time to come in and speak with her about this stuff and I can also get my hard drive. I never got a text. Never got a text back. I never got a call back. At this point, I already like sent them my letter. I sent them my letter of resignation to them. So get this. At this point, because of all of that, Mahogany ends up kicking me out of my work email. She ends up blocking my phone calls, I guess she blocked my text as well. And I'm like, okay, so you guys have my hard drive and you're gonna block me from everything and you guys owe me money. We're not having that. So I ended up having to, I gave them a warning before I did this. I was like, hey, you know, if you guys don't respond to me in like a timely manner, I'm gonna call the police and then have them like help me collect my stuff. They never responded. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like they think I'm joking. So I called the police and I ended up going over there with some officers and they answered the door all surprised. Like, oh, like, you know, what's going on? I'm just like, wow, these guys are full of it. I already told the officer everything that was going on and they were like, yeah, these guys are like scammers and they're like pretty messed up. So when we finish this, you need to also go to small claims with them. And I was like, okay, cool. So we get there and I collect my hard drive from them and Justin's like, oh, you're gonna hear from our lawyers. They don't have lawyers. But anyways, he's like, yeah, you're gonna hear from our lawyers and also we want him to be like trespassed so that way he can't come on our property. I'm like, dude, I'm never coming back here. You trust me, you do not have to worry about that. So that was a real big issue for me. And then I ended up going through that whole process. I ended up getting my hard drive and then I took them to small claims, which I took them to small claims and they took forever to respond. But after me taking them to small claims, I ended up winning the case and Justin never showed up to court. He sent Mahogany in his place because I didn't write Mahogany's name anywhere on the claim. I wrote Justin because, you know, Justin's the one pulling the strings. So Justin never showed up. Only Mahogany was there, and I thought that was kind of odd. And she came late too, by the way. And I also ended up bringing one of the old videographers who used to work with them, and she helped me out in my case and ended up helping me win. So at this point, I ended up winning the case, and they ended up owing me the money that they owe, and it was a court order. You know, it was a judgment order, meaning that they had to pay it at a certain time. Mahogany ends up not paying. Till this day, I haven't seen anything. So I'm like, I send them like more warnings and emails like, hey, like, you know, what's going on? Nothing. They don't send me any kind of text. They don't send me any kind of email. At the courthouse, whenever we finished the trial, Mahogany was like crying and like, oh, like I'm going through this divorce with Justin, you know, all the BS stuff that they're talking about, which isn't real. But they're going through all that crap and she's like crying to the judge, lying to the judge about like, I don't have the money or the funds and stuff like that. Can I get an extension? I don't give them an extension. So, and I find like, this is the part that pisses me off because I'm sure that you guys can see Mahogany and Justin are still posting on their channels and things like that. And Mahogany recently posted a video of her purchasing a Tesla Model X. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but Model X's are $80,000 and that's a lot of money. So you're claiming that you don't have the money to pay me, the nanny, the old videographer, and the videographer before them, and the other people. They owe all of these people money, and no one has taken them to court because we all signed a contract and we signed a little NDA talking about this stuff, but our contract became void the moment that one, they didn't pay, and all the lies and stuff, and who we signed the contract with, because we signed it with Kathy Franklin, who doesn't exist. So I even asked the judge about it. The contract was void. So at this point, you know, that's why I'm speaking out about it now, because I want people to know that this is how they do things, that no one should ever work for them. They do it with everyone. They've done it with me. They've done it with the videographer before me. They've done it with the one before her. And they did it with the nanny. And they owe the nanny more money than they owe me. So that was some things that it just didn't sit right with me. And nobody should really work with them. Again, they claim to be these pastors and Christians and stuff. They're all up in their videos talking about this. And I'm just like, you guys are so full of it. And no one's able to see through your guys' BS, and it bothers me. So I had to be the one to take them to court, and also to make this video to warn people, you know, do not work for these guys. Do not work for Justin and Mahogany. They owe me way over a couple $1,000, and I'm going to get every bit of that. Trust me. And same thing with, you know, the nanny. They owe her that amount of money. Same thing with the other videographers. They owe so many people money, and no one has decided to take them to court, and it was because of the contract, which if you guys are watching this now, you know, you guys can take them to small claims. You guys will win. I will be a witness. You know, contact me. I will be a witness, and I will help you guys with this case. That's like, pretty much everything about them as far as, you know, working with them and everything. When it comes to their kids, I know I said I was going to talk about how they treat their kids and everything. I'm not going to say everything because that becomes very messy. It becomes some other big thing. But as you guys can tell, when it came to filming in their house, they would have the kids, you know, come downstairs and do their stuff and film. Then whenever they're done filming, they would send them back upstairs and be like, all right, that's it with the kids. Justin and Mahogany do not spend time with their kids. They don't even know their names. And they even slip up in the videos where they get the names wrong. They have to redo some stuff because they get the names wrong. These guys clearly had these kids for the money to help the channel grow and stuff like that. They do not care. They do not want kids. And it's really sad because they're sweet kids. And I know that, you know, Justin Jr. is autistic, and to be honest with you, I believe that all of the kids, that something is wrong with all of the kids. It could also be a thing of they just don't spend time with their kids. They don't read to them. They don't, you know, go upstairs and spend time with them. Stuff like that. Their kids just exist and they spend most of the time upstairs in their rooms, running around and doing whatever that they do upstairs, but they're never just downstairs with their mom and dad. And it's really sad when you're there. There have been times where I would be downstairs with them. I'd be playing with cars because, you know, they do love cars. And you can tell that they're being neglected because they want to spend so much time with you. And, you know, I'm sure Holly could speak on that as well. She would always, you know, she's the nanny, so she would spend more time with them. We both caught on to their names way before these guys have, and these are their kids. So I don't understand how they aren't able to get their names down. And I don't know. And it would be a thing of like, oh, you know, they have 6 kids, but I have over 100 students and I can tell you all of their names. But anyways, that's like a discussion for another thingy. I also find it kind of funny how now when, you know, they've seen my video, my short video of me talking about how I was going to talk about them. Ever since then, they've been taking their kids outside. Them kids have never been outside since I've been there, ever. They always keep them inside the house. They never go anywhere. The only one who actually goes outside was Maverick because, you know, he's the baby and they had to take him to go to a doctor's appointment, which, you know, I'm not going to talk about that part. But anyways, yeah, the kids never leave the house. So that was kind of annoying. Whenever we did that one video where they're like throwing the stuff out and the kids are helping them move everything, that was the first time they've been outside. And even the kids are like trying to enjoy the time outside. And they're like, oh, like trying to put them to work. I'm like, let these kids have fun. You have a backyard. And so, you know, you guys see them. There was one video where they had that big bounce house inside their house that they rented it. It wasn't actually theirs. Clearly, it wasn't theirs. The next day, they sent it back. They gave the kids like 15 minutes to play on it while we filmed. Once we finished, they ended up, you know, packing it back up and sending it on. And I was like, these kids have nothing. So I started to feel really bad, and it was like really upsetting working there. The other thing that I found really nasty was for the first 2 weeks of me working there, there was no soap in the bathroom, and it was disgusting. Mahogany's excuse of why there was no soap in the bathroom was she's like, oh, I get like these Amazon deals, so whenever I make the video of that, I'm gonna put the soap in there. And I'm just like, you can't just go buy soap and put it in the bathroom. That's disgusting. So I ended up bringing my own soap to work because there were some times where Justin and Mahogany would go to the bathroom and they just, obviously they wouldn't wash their hands, and it's just nasty. They're very nasty people. The house is nasty. They're nasty people. It's just bad. Another thing, you know, touching on the kids is, again, like I said, you know, they don't really care for the kids like that. They just have them for fame and, you know, for the money and everything like that. One thing that really bothered me is there was that one video where Justin was like dragging the kids around in this basket that he tied a string to and just dragging them around. There's one part that I ended up having to cut out because it would be very bad. Justin ended up slamming one of them into the wall, and they're crying and they're like, "Oh, like cut the camera." I'm still rolling, but they tell me to cut the camera, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like, what the heck? You're not careful. And every time he did it, I'm just like, dude, just getting so close to the wall. So he's like crying, and then Justin puts him back in the basket, and he goes back to go do it again. He doesn't care. None of them care about the kids, and it bothers me. There have been times where they would leave Maverick in the car seat in the kitchen by himself. It's just things like that that really drove me insane. As he left this part out, there was a time where I got really sick. And I mean, like, sick to the point where I had a high fever, I was throwing up, and I ended up texting Justin to let him know, well, the group chat. And I was like, hey, you know, I'm not gonna be able to come into work today. And he was like, he ended up texting me back 2 hours later, which I thought was odd because Justin never takes a long time to respond to text messages. So I thought that was very odd. He ended up getting back to me. He's like, yo, like, what's going on? So he ended up calling me, and he's like, well, we gotta like finish up this video. And I'm like, Justin, I'm sick. Like, I'm throwing up, I have a high fever. You have 6 kids. I don't want to pass that on to them. And he's like, oh, like, you gotta find some kind of way to do something because we need this video, so you have to come in. And I'm just like, Justin, I'm not driving an hour over there and I'm sick. You have kids. You have kids that I do not want to get sick, and I'm not getting in my car to drive an hour over there. And he's like, how do I know that you're really sick? Come over here, we'll check your temperature. At this point, I'm pissed because I'm like, dude, I'm telling you that I'm sick, I'm passing, I'm like throwing up and things like that, and you're wanting me to drive over there. We're getting in an argument for a good hour. One thing leads to another. I end up driving over there. At this point, like, I have a huge headache, a migraine. I'm still throwing up. I get there and I'm like, okay, like, check my temperature so that you can see that I'm sick and I can go home. They end up bringing out their thing. They never used it before. They're like, oh, like, I don't know how to like read this. I had to explain to them how it works, which is pathetic. You have kids and you can't tell. Anyways, so we're like, he ends up checking my temperature and it was a pretty high temperature. And he's like, oh, like, does your heat in your car work? I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay, he thinks that I'm over here driving, blasting my heat. So, of course, he's like, well, we'll give it like 30 minutes, but you're gonna come inside and sit in the cold air. And I'm just like, okay. At this point, I'm thinking like, okay, even if my temperature is high, they're not gonna let me leave. So they sit me up in the office and he's like, why are you here? Could you like edit these videos and stuff and get it ready to go? And I'm just like, yeah, I could tell you guys didn't care. So they end up coming back later on to check my temperature, to like officially check it after 30 minutes. They check it and it's still high. Now, at this point, they don't say anything. They're like, well, like, we need you to finish the video anyways, like, you're already here. And I'm like, yeah, I already knew that was the plan. You guys do not care. And so, you know, that was one thing that kind of annoyed me too. When I finished, I ended up leaving, and he was like, hey, for future references, we want you to leave your equipment here. I'm not leaving my equipment there. I paid for this. So I told them, I didn't say anything about it. But the person who told me that was Kathy, AKA Justin and Mahogany. So that was another thing that really bothered me. So, you know, those are just the things about them that I would look out for. Again, I would never work for these people. Same thing with their skits. I'm in a Facebook group where I've been in this Facebook film group for a while. Justin posts in there all the time. And he's like looking for actors for his skits. I'm like, you guys owe people money and you're trying to pay other people. You guys have a judge order to pay someone and you're avoiding it, but you're paying other people. Okay, keep up, like, keep on with that. So things like that really bother me. And there's other things that I could get into, but again, that gets very messy, like things about their house. Of course, you know, you guys have looked into it yourself, so I don't really have to say anything about that. About how much money they make. These guys, clearly, they're living way beyond their means. When it comes to doing like the photo shoots, you know, Mahogany used to lie a lot about like, oh, I'm doing like a Steve Madden photo shoot, we have this planned out. It was just her buying Steve Madden stuff we did the photo shoot with it and then a video, and then she like sends it back. Same thing with Justin. He buys suits for his stuff, we film with it, and he sends it back. They do not make the money that you guys think they make. These guys are broke. They can't afford anything. They are behind on a lot of payments, but you know, we're not going to get into that. So when it comes to them like being online, telling them buying things and always like out doing stuff, no guys, these guys are clearly scamming. They don't have the money to do these things. They're just trying to, you know, show out for the internet. So again, I would just avoid this family altogether. Leave these guys alone. Don't give them any kind of love. As you can see, they're doing this whole like divorce thingy, which is BS. They're trying to get people to go to the other channels. Mahogany's trying to get people on her Patreon, which there's nothing on her Patreon that she isn't saying on her channel. So if you guys want to waste some money to do that, by all means do it. But I want to waste some money. Unless, you know, she decides to give the money to me like she owes me, but whatever. I hope that this helps everyone else understand, you know, Jackson's a bit more. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you guys kind of already knew, but you guys didn't really know the stuff that happened with me and why, you know, the content of their videos have been different since then. As you can tell, their quality and things went down from their reels and then just their long format videos and stuff like that. It's because, you know, they went from me using my $4,000 camera to their iPhone. So stuff like that. Anyways, guys, like I said before, this is not going to be a regular video on this channel. So this might be the last time I even talk about them on this channel. This is a warning. Do not, like, stay away from this family. Don't interact with them. If you guys are even subscribed to them, I wouldn't even still be subscribed to them. Justin and Mahogany, this is like just me talking at this point. Justin and Mahogany aren't the brightest. I generally think that something is wrong with them. They start to believe their own lies, and when you believe your own lies, that's a problem. You know, Justin does those skits where he's touching on other women, he's feeling on them, he's kissing them, which I don't understand why you women let him do that in the first place. Like, I understand wanting to get famous and stuff, but like, his skits aren't good. If anything, it's just making you guys look bad. So I don't know. I haven't watched the full skit. I don't care to watch the full skit. They suck. Like, they really suck. There's bad writing. Justin uses these skits as a sick excuse of him to live out his fantasy. I'm not sure if you guys noticed that. That's one thing that Justin and Mahogany would argue about all the time, because he's using this as an excuse to, you know, touch and feel other women. But, you know, Mahogany lets it happen. So I know a lot of you guys say that, you know, Mahogany isn't as bad as Justin, but no, I would argue that Mahogany and Justin are just as equally as bad. The difference is Mahogany is just a worse liar than Justin. Justin is able to at least lie a bit better than Mahogany, and they can even look at the camera when they're talking. When you see them looking away, they're lying about something. That's just how they are, and I'm sure you guys can see that. But anyways, guys, that's it. If there are more things that I should clear up more with you guys, sure, I might make another video, but this might be the only video that I make about them. And I'm still doing video work, just not with them. I do other things, and I'm trying to stick to that. As you guys can tell, this is a movie review channel. I know that you guys subscribe to, you know, hear about this, but I would appreciate it if you guys stay to watch my reviews and things like that. But that's pretty much it about the Jacksons. If you guys have any other questions, obviously you can comment down below. I might make more shorts explaining it and things like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it.